rescued me from the paw of the lion, and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. David was divinely there on a purpose. David was appointed by God to fight this battle. And notice that when King Saul, who was the king of Israel, taunting David and said that, you can't fight this battle. You can't fight against Goliath. Goliath has been fighting since he was a boy. Goliath has been fighting since he was a youth. And David, you're only about 16 years old. You're only a young cat. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing out here, David. We can't have you going out to the battle. Saul says that you can't fight him because you're only a little boy. And can I tell you, young people, and anybody that may be listening, you have to learn to silence the Sauls in your life. You have to learn to silence the Sauls in your life. And really, his older brother Eliab, also family members that will try to haunt you and try to tell you that you can't do this, you can't do that. But you have to silence the Sauls and eliminate the Eliabs in your life. When you silence the Sauls and when you eliminate the Eliabs, you're able to do what God has appointed you to do. People will try to discourage you because they can't do what God has called you to do. This ain't the first time that I've seen this scene. The same thing that happened last time is the same thing that's going to happen this time. God brought us out before, God will bring us out again. God provided before, God will provide again. God delivered before, God will deliver again. God healed before, God will heal again. I'm so glad we serve a God that never changes. God can do all things but fail. Young people, I said it earlier, got some bad news for you. That in life, you will experience some trials. In life, you will experience some hardships. You'll deal with some losses. You'll deal with some rejections. You'll deal with some friend issues. You'll deal with some relationship issues. You have to deal with losing a loved one. You'll have to deal with going through some trial. You have to deal with eating some ramen noodles every now and then if you haven't already experienced that before. But I just want to encourage somebody today to know that God always comes through. End of the sermon, Saul, he agrees to let David go to war against Goliath. Y'all can help me preach it. Saul puts David in armor to go fight against Goliath. Mind you, that a couple of verses up, nobody wanted to fight Goliath. Now Saul all of a sudden is now trying to tell David how to fight Goliath. Can I just tell you all that what worked for you may not work for somebody else. But the way that you found Christ may not be the way that everybody else will find Christ. The way that where God found you may not be where God found somebody else. We got to put on our own. We got to do what God has called us to do. We got to be who God has called us to be in him. We can't be anybody else. We can't be who somebody wants us to be. We have to be who God has called us to be. We can't be putting on anybody else's armor. We can't be trying to be like anybody else. I remember my first sermon, I had 5 different voices in my head. Trying to sound like this preacher, that preacher, all these different preachers. Till God said, you have your own voice. If I wanted them, I would have called them to stand up to preach. But God called me, and I'm going to use my voice to preach his word and my voice that God has given me. We have to get rid of that mindset and that mentality that the way that we did things is the only way to do it. Now, David, he's ready for the battle. He takes the armor of Saul, he takes it off, and he uses what he had. David had a slingshot. Why did he need 5 smooth stones? I don't know what that imagery is. I don't know what the Holy Spirit is trying to tell me, but I don't know if there's any symmetry. I don't know if there's any type of correlation, but God had grace on us. And David is now approaching this giant and this thing that had everyone else bound, and everyone else was scared, and David was now ready to take this giant down. He faces Goliath. He has his armor bearer, his shield protector right in front of him, and Goliath starts cursing God, and he tries to attack God and the God of Israel, and he tries to attack David. But David is ready to get this over with. David had a secret weapon. The secret weapon, his name is God. And I'm so grateful this morning that we all have a secret weapon named God. I'm so glad that we have a secret weapon named God that will show up in our battles for us. David said, you come against me with sword, you come against me with the spear, and you come against me with the javelin. But we're at a Baptist church. You ought to just start running when you hear those 3 words. I come against you in the name of the Lord.